Good people often believe that kindness protects them. They think that if they treat others with respect, loyalty, and honesty, the world will return that same energy. But reality can be painfully different. In fact, the very traits that make someone good, compassion, trust, forgiveness, and empathy, can also make them vulnerable to being hurt. This isn't because goodness is weakness, it's because not everyone operates from the same moral place. Some people exploit kindness instead of honoring it. The ugly truth is that good people often become targets precisely because of their goodness. Understanding why this happens isn't meant to make you bitter, it's meant to make you wiser. 1. They trust too easily. One of the most painful truths about good people is that they tend to trust quickly and deeply. Trust, for them, feels natural. It's not something they calculate or hold back carefully. It's something they give freely because it reflects the way they live their own lives. Good people assume that others think the same way they do. They believe honesty is normal. They believe loyalty is expected. They believe kindness is mutual. Because of this mindset, they often walk into relationships, friendships, or partnerships with their guard down. They don't spend time wondering if someone has hidden motives. They don't analyze every word for manipulation. They simply believe that if they are genuine, the other person will be too. But the harsh reality is that not everyone operates with the same moral compass. Some people see trust as something sacred. Others see it as something to exploit. And unfortunately, those who exploit others often recognize trusting people almost immediately. They can sense openness, kindness, and sincerity like a radar. Instead of appreciating it, they see it as an opportunity. Think about it. Someone who lies or manipulates regularly knows they must work harder around skeptical people. Suspicious people ask questions. They observe behavior. They keep emotional distance until trust is earned. But good people, they often skip that step. They welcome people in quickly because they believe that trust builds connection. They think giving someone the benefit of the doubt is the right thing to do. And morally, they're not wrong. The problem is that trust without verification can be dangerous. When someone trustworthy meets someone manipulative, the relationship becomes uneven from the beginning. One person is being authentic, while the other is studying how far they can push boundaries. At first, the manipulative person may appear incredibly charming. They mirror the good person's values, interests, and personality. They say all the right things. They present themselves as honest, loyal, and respectful. Why? Because they know that once trust is earned, control becomes easier. And good people, believing they have finally found someone genuine, lower their defenses even more. They share their thoughts, their struggles, their dreams. They become emotionally invested. Then, slowly, things start to change. Small lies appear. Promises are broken. Respect starts fading. But instead of immediately recognizing these warning signs, good people often explain them away. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe they're just going through a difficult time. Their trust becomes a shield protecting the person who hurt them. This is where the real pain begins. Because when good people finally realize that someone has betrayed their trust, the hurt runs deeper than a simple mistake. It feels like their entire belief in people has been shaken. They don't just feel disappointed in the other person. They start questioning themselves. How did I not see this? Was I too naive? Am I just bad at judging people? The truth is, their problem was never stupidity or weakness. Their problem was assuming that others were built with the same values they were. But the world contains many different kinds of people. Some protect trust, some abuse it, and learning that difference often comes through painful experience. However, this doesn't mean trusting people is wrong. Trust is actually one of the most powerful foundations for meaningful relationships. The key difference is learning to give trust gradually instead of instantly. Trust should be something people prove over time, not something they automatically receive. Good people often think distrust means negativity, but healthy skepticism isn't cruelty, it's wisdom. It simply means allowing someone's actions to confirm their words. Example, imagine a man named Daniel who meets a new co-worker named Alex. Alex is friendly, charismatic, and quickly forms a bond with Daniel. They talk about goals, personal struggles, and life outside work. Daniel feels like he's finally found a genuine friend at the office. After a few weeks, Alex asks Daniel for a small favor, covering his shift one day because of a family emergency. Daniel agrees without hesitation because he trusts him. A few weeks later, Alex asks for another favor, then another. Daniel continues helping because that's the kind of person he is. He believes friendships require support. But slowly, Daniel begins noticing something strange. Alex rarely returns the favors. Sometimes Alex disappears when Daniel needs help. Eventually, Daniel discovers that some of Alex's emergencies were actually excuses. Even worse, Alex had been taking credit for some of Daniel's ideas at work. Daniel feels betrayed, not just because of the actions, but because he trusted someone who didn't deserve it. For a moment, Daniel wonders if he should stop trusting people altogether. But the real lesson isn't to become cold or suspicious. The real lesson is this: trust should be built step by step. A person's words may sound sincere, but their actions reveal their true character. Good people don't need to stop being trusting. They simply need to learn when trust has actually been earned. Because when trust is given to the right people, it creates powerful connections. But when it's given too quickly, it can open the door to unnecessary pain. 2. They try to fix broken people. One of the most beautiful and dangerous traits of genuinely good people is their instinct to heal others. When most people encounter someone who is emotionally unstable, toxic, or deeply wounded, their reaction is simple: stay away. They see the warning signs and create distance. But good people often react very differently. Instead of seeing a broken person and walking away, they see someone who needs love, patience, and understanding. Where others see problems, they see potential. Where others see chaos, they see a person who simply hasn't been loved the right way yet. Their mindset becomes, maybe no one has ever truly supported them before. Maybe they just need someone who won't give up on them. Maybe I can help them change. This is where the trap begins. Good people believe that kindness can repair damage. They believe loyalty can rebuild trust. They believe patience can calm someone's emotional storms. And sometimes those beliefs are not wrong. There are moments when compassion truly helps someone grow. But here's the painful truth many good people learn too late. You cannot fix someone who isn't willing to fix themselves. No amount of love can heal someone who refuses accountability. No amount of patience can change someone who enjoys their destructive behavior. And no amount of sacrifice can rebuild someone who keeps tearing things down. Yet good people often feel personally responsible for helping broken individuals. They feel like walking away would make them selfish or heartless. So they stay. They tolerate emotional outbursts. They excuse disrespect. They forgive harmful patterns over and over again. They start carrying the emotional weight of someone else's life. Instead of a healthy relationship where both people support each other, the dynamic becomes something else entirely. One person constantly rescuing and the other constantly collapsing. At first, the good person feels strong and purposeful. Helping someone feels meaningful. It gives them a sense of importance. But over time, the reality begins to show itself. The broken person keeps repeating the same patterns. The apologies become empty. The promises of change never turn into real action, and the good person slowly starts losing themselves. Their energy drains. Their peace disappears. Their emotional health begins to suffer. The cruel irony is that the good person often blames themselves when things don't improve. They start thinking, maybe I didn't try hard enough. Maybe I should have been more patient. Maybe I gave up too soon. But the truth is much simpler. Healing is a personal decision. Someone can support another person's growth, but they cannot force it. Change only happens when the person who is broken decides they want to rebuild themselves. Until then, Anyone trying to fix them becomes trapped in a cycle of endless effort with very little progress. And unfortunately, some broken people unconsciously or sometimes intentionally attach themselves to good people because they know those people won't abandon them easily. Good people become emotional caretakers. They absorb stress, drama, and negativity because they believe one day the other person will finally wake up and appreciate everything they've done. Sometimes that day never comes. Instead, the good person eventually realizes something heartbreaking. They weren't helping someone grow. They were protecting that person from the consequences of their behavior. When someone constantly fixes another person's problems, the broken person never has to face their own responsibility. And without responsibility, growth cannot happen. That realization is painful, but it is also powerful because it teaches one of the most important lessons in life. Compassion does not require self-sacrifice. You can care about someone and still recognize that their healing is not your responsibility. You can support someone without becoming their emotional life support system. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for both yourself and the other person, is to step away and allow them to face the reality they've been avoiding. Example, consider a woman named Maya who begins dating someone named Jordan. At first, Jordan seems charming but admits they've had a difficult past. They talk about toxic relationships, family struggles, and emotional trauma. Maya listens with empathy. She feels compassion for everything Jordan has been through. When Jordan becomes distant or moody, Maya doesn't see it as a red flag. She sees it as pain that needs understanding. Whenever Jordan lashes out or behaves unfairly, Maya thinks, they're just hurt, so she stays patient. When Jordan forgets important things, Maya forgives. When Jordan breaks promises, Maya believes the apologies. She keeps telling herself that if she just loves them enough, things will improve. Months pass. Instead of things getting better, Jordan continues repeating the same behaviors: emotional withdrawal, anger, broken commitments. Meanwhile, Maya begins feeling exhausted. She spends so much time trying to stabilize Jordan's emotions that she barely notices how drained she has become. Eventually, a friend asks her a simple question: do you feel happier or more tired since being with them? That question hits hard. For the first time, Maya realizes she has been trying to carry someone else's healing on her shoulders. She cared deeply, but caring wasn't enough to change someone who wasn't actively working on themselves. When Maya finally steps away from the relationship, she doesn't do it because she stopped caring. She does it because she finally understands a truth that many good people must learn. Helping someone should never require destroying yourself. The right people in your life won't need to be fixed. They will grow with you, not depend on you to rebuild them. 3. They stay loyal too long. Loyalty is one of the most respected qualities a person can have. It means standing by people you care about, keeping your promises, and refusing to abandon someone when life gets difficult. In a world where many people walk away at the first sign of trouble, loyal people are rare. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes loyalty becomes the very thing that causes the deepest pain. Good people take loyalty seriously. When they commit to someone, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, or even a job, they mean it. To them, loyalty isn't temporary. It's a principle. It's a promise. They believe that when you care about someone, you stay through the hard times. So when problems appear, their first instinct is not to leave. It's to stay and fight for the relationship. They remind themselves of the good memories. They remember how things were in the beginning. They hold on to the belief that the person they once knew is still there somewhere. Even when others start noticing the cracks, good people keep defending the person they're loyal to. They say things like, "You don't understand them like I do. They're just going through a rough time. Things weren't always like this." Their loyalty becomes a shield, protecting someone who may no longer deserve that protection. And this is where the problem begins, because while loyalty is meant to strengthen relationships, it only works when both people value it equally. When one person is loyal and the other person is careless, the relationship becomes painfully unbalanced. The loyal person keeps investing time, energy, patience, and emotional effort. The other person slowly stops trying, but the loyal person doesn't leave. Instead, they wait. They wait for things to improve. They wait for appreciation. They wait for the other person to realize what they have. Sometimes that realization never comes, and while they're waiting, something important is happening. Their own needs are being ignored. Good people often confuse loyalty with endurance. They believe that staying proves their strength. They think walking away means giving up too easily. But there is a huge difference between being loyal and being trapped. True loyalty supports growth and mutual respect. Unhealthy loyalty traps someone in situations where they are constantly undervalued. The most painful part is that good people often know deep down that something isn't right. They feel the imbalance. They notice the effort isn't mutual anymore. They notice they're the only one apologizing. They notice they're the only one trying to fix things. But their loyalty whispers something powerful in their mind. You've come this far. Don't quit now. So they stay longer than they should. Months turn into years, and by the time they finally walk away, they often feel emotionally exhausted, confused, and sometimes even ashamed for staying so long. But the truth is this: their loyalty was never the mistake. The mistake was giving that loyalty to someone who didn't respect it. Loyal people believe commitment is sacred. Unfortunately, not everyone sees relationships the same way. Some people only stay as long as things are convenient. They enjoy loyalty when it benefits them, but they don't return it when things get difficult. And because good people are loyal by nature, they often struggle to recognize when a relationship has quietly stopped being mutual. They keep giving long after the other person has stopped trying. Eventually, life teaches them a difficult but necessary lesson. Loyalty should never require self-abandonment. Staying committed to someone should not mean ignoring your own happiness, your peace, or your dignity. Real loyalty is powerful when it flows both ways, but when it only flows in one direction, it slowly becomes a burden. Learning when to stay and when to walk away is one of the hardest skills loyal people ever develop, because leaving someone they once cared about doesn't feel like strength to them. It feels like failure. But sometimes walking away is not betrayal. Sometimes it is simply refusing to stay where your loyalty is taken for granted. Example: imagine a man named Marcus, who has been best friends with someone named Ryan since high school. They've shared years of memories, struggles, and successes together. Marcus values that history deeply. To him, Ryan isn't just a friend, he's family. As time passes, however, Ryan begins changing. He becomes unreliable. He cancels plans last minute. Sometimes he only contacts Marcus when he needs help, money, or a favor. Marcus notices the shift, but he keeps excusing it. He's probably stressed. He's just busy. Real friends stick together. So Marcus continues showing up. When Ryan needs a ride, Marcus is there. When Ryan needs advice, Marcus listens. When Ryan makes mistakes, Marcus forgives. But something starts bothering Marcus. Whenever he needs support, Ryan is rarely available. One day Marcus goes through a difficult personal situation and calls Ryan for help. Ryan brushes it off and changes the subject. For the first time, Marcus begins to see the pattern clearly. He realizes that for years he has been carrying the entire weight of their friendship. Ryan enjoyed Marcus's loyalty, but he never matched it. That realization hurts, not because Marcus regrets being loyal, but because he realizes his loyalty had been one-sided for a long time. Eventually, Marcus distances himself from the friendship. It isn't easy. He struggles with guilt at first, wondering if he's abandoning someone who once meant so much to him. But over time, he understands something important. Loyalty should strengthen relationships, not drain the people who give it. The right people in life will value your loyalty and return it. The wrong people will simply get comfortable receiving it. And the moment you learn the difference is the moment your loyalty finally begins to protect you instead of hurting you. 4. They empathize with the person who hurt them. One of the most powerful qualities a good person possesses is empathy, the ability to step into someone else's emotional world and truly understand what they're feeling. Empathy allows people to connect deeply. It creates compassion, patience, and understanding. But sometimes, empathy can become a double-edged sword, because when good people get hurt, they don't immediately focus on their own pain. Instead, they start trying to understand the pain of the person who hurt them. While most people would react with anger or distance, empathetic people do something very different. Their mind immediately begins searching for explanations. They start thinking, maybe they didn't mean to hurt me. Maybe they're dealing with something I don't understand. Maybe they're just struggling emotionally. Instead of seeing the action itself as the problem, they look deeper for the hidden reason behind it. And this is where things become complicated. Because empathy is designed to create compassion, but when it is used in the wrong situation, it can unintentionally protect harmful behavior. Good people often become emotional detectives. They analyze what might have caused someone to behave badly. Did that person have a difficult childhood? Are they under pressure? Are they afraid of being vulnerable? Suddenly, the person who caused the harm begins to look less like someone responsible for their actions and more like someone who needs understanding. Meanwhile, the good person's own pain quietly moves to the background. They minimize it. They say things like, "It wasn't that bad. I know they didn't mean it. I shouldn't take it personally." Their empathy becomes a tool that explains away the hurt instead of confronting it. This is one of the reasons good people sometimes remain in unhealthy relationships far longer than they should. Because empathy allows them to see the humanity in someone who may not be treating them with humanity in return. And while compassion is admirable, it can also create a dangerous emotional imbalance. The empathetic person becomes the emotional caretaker, constantly trying to understand and forgive. The other person becomes someone whose behavior is repeatedly excused. Over time, this creates a cycle. The person hurts them. The empathetic person understands them. They forgive them. The behavior repeats, and every time it happens, the empathetic person searches for a deeper explanation instead of recognizing a simple truth. Understanding someone's pain does not excuse the pain they cause you. This is a lesson that takes many good people years to fully understand. Empathy is meant to create connection, but it should never erase accountability. Someone can have trauma, stress, or emotional struggles, and those things can explain their behavior. But explanation is not the same as justification. When empathy becomes so strong that it prevents someone from protecting themselves, it stops being healthy. It becomes self-neglect. Many good people struggle with this because they believe compassion means always being understanding. But real emotional maturity means balancing two truths at the same time. You can understand someone's pain and still refuse to tolerate the harm they cause. Those two things can exist together. Someone might have had a difficult life. Someone might carry emotional wounds from their past. Someone might be struggling internally, but none of those things give them the right to repeatedly hurt others. Empathetic people often fear that setting boundaries makes them cold or unforgiving. But boundaries don't eliminate compassion. They simply protect the person who is showing compassion. And the moment good people learn to combine empathy with self-respect, their relationships begin to change dramatically. They still understand others deeply, but they no longer sacrifice their own well-being in the process. Example: imagine a woman named Elena who has been dating someone named Chris for several months. Chris is charming and intelligent, but he also has a habit of becoming emotionally distant and sometimes saying hurtful things during arguments. The first time it happens, Elena is shocked. Chris apologizes afterward and explains that he grew up in a household where people constantly argued and criticized each other. He says he never learned healthy ways to communicate. Elena listens carefully. Instead of focusing on how his words hurt her, she immediately feels empathy for his past. She thinks that must have been really hard for him, so she forgives him. A few weeks later, another argument happens. Chris becomes defensive and once again says something harsh. This time, Elena feels hurt again, but her empathy activates immediately. He probably reacted that way because he's afraid of conflict, so she forgives him again. Months pass, and the pattern continues. Every time Chris hurts her, he explains it through his past experiences, and every time Elena responds with understanding instead of boundaries. Eventually, one of Elena's friends asks her a simple question. Do you notice that you always understand his pain, but he rarely acknowledges yours? That question hits Elena deeply. For the first time, she realizes something important. Her empathy had been focused entirely on Chris. She had spent months trying to understand his emotional struggles while quietly ignoring how the situation was affecting her. Chris's past explained his behavior, but it didn't excuse the ongoing hurt. Elena finally has an honest conversation with him. She tells him she understands his past, but she also needs respect and emotional safety. If the behavior continues, she will no longer accept it. This moment changes everything. Not because Elena stopped being empathetic, but because she finally learned that empathy must include yourself too. Understanding others is powerful, but understanding your own worth is just as important. 5. They value peace over confrontation. Many good people pride themselves on being calm, patient, and easy to get along with. They don't enjoy arguments. They don't thrive on drama. In fact, they often do everything they can to keep the environment around them peaceful. To them, peace feels like maturity. If something bothers them, they think carefully before reacting. They try to stay calm. They try to understand both sides. They tell themselves that not every problem needs a confrontation, and most of the time this approach works well. It helps maintain healthy relationships and prevents unnecessary conflicts. But there is a hidden danger in valuing peace too much. Sometimes, the desire to avoid conflict becomes stronger than the desire to protect yourself. Good people often grow up believing that confrontation is negative. They associate it with anger, aggression, or emotional chaos, so they develop a habit of stepping back instead of stepping forward. When someone says something hurtful, they stay quiet. When someone crosses a boundary, they let it slide. When someone disrespects them, they convince themselves it's not worth creating tension. They think things like, "It's not that serious. I don't want to start an argument. Let's just keep the peace." And while this mindset can sometimes prevent unnecessary drama, it can also quietly invite repeated disrespect. Because the truth is simple. People often treat you based on what you tolerate. When someone realizes that a person avoids confrontation, they may begin pushing boundaries further and further, not always intentionally, but because they see that there are no consequences for their behavior. At first, the small things don't seem important. A dismissive comment here, a broken promise there, a moment of disrespect that gets brushed off. But small things have a way of growing. When they are never addressed, they slowly become patterns, and by the time the good person finally feels overwhelmed, the situation has often been happening for a long time. This is why many good people eventually experience a moment where they suddenly explode with frustration. To outsiders, it looks like they overreacted, but the truth is that emotional reaction didn't come from one incident. It came from months or years of silent tolerance. Every time they chose peace over confrontation, they pushed their own feelings deeper inside. They convinced themselves that staying quiet was the mature thing to do. But silence doesn't erase problems. It simply hides them, and hidden problems almost always return later, often in bigger and more painful ways. What makes this especially difficult for good people is that confrontation feels unnatural to them. They worry that speaking up will make them look aggressive or difficult. They fear damaging the relationship, They worry the other person might become angry or distant, so instead of expressing their feelings openly, they choose the path that feels safer in the moment: avoidance. But real peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict. Real peace comes from honest communication and healthy boundaries. Sometimes addressing a problem directly actually strengthens relationships because it allows both people to understand each other better. The healthiest relationships aren't the ones that never have disagreements. They are the ones where both people feel safe enough to speak honestly without fear. Good people often discover later in life that confrontation doesn't have to mean yelling or hostility. It can be calm, it can be respectful, it can be honest. A simple statement like, "That bothered me. I didn't appreciate that. I need this to change," can prevent months of silent frustration. When people learn that their actions have consequences, they are far more likely to adjust their behavior. But if those consequences never appear, the behavior continues. Good people sometimes believe that avoiding confrontation keeps relationships strong. In reality, it can sometimes allow unhealthy dynamics to grow unnoticed. The moment someone learns to balance kindness with assertiveness, something powerful happens. They remain peaceful, but they are no longer silent. They remain patient, but they are no longer passive. And suddenly, the respect they receive from others begins to change, because people naturally respect those who respect themselves enough to speak up. Example: consider a man named Aaron who works in an office with several co-workers. Aaron is known as the calm and friendly person in the group. He gets along with everyone and rarely complains about anything. One of his co-workers, Jason, begins asking Aaron for small favors. At first, it seems harmless. Jason asks Aaron to finish a small part of a project because he's too busy. Aaron agrees because he wants to help. Then it happens again the next week, and the week after that. Aaron notices that Jason keeps shifting responsibilities onto him, but instead of confronting the issue, he tells himself it's easier to just do it than start a conflict. So he continues helping. Over time, Jason becomes comfortable relying on Aaron to handle more and more of his work. Months later, Aaron finds himself overwhelmed. He's working longer hours than everyone else, and much of the extra work isn't even his responsibility. One day, his manager praises Jason for completing a project that Aaron actually did most of. That moment hits Aaron hard. For the first time, he realizes that his silence allowed the situation to grow. The next time Jason tries to pass work onto him, Aaron calmly responds, "I can't take that on. I need to focus on my own responsibilities." Jason is surprised, but the dynamic immediately changes, because once Aaron finally spoke up, the pattern stopped. Aaron didn't become rude. He didn't start arguments. He simply stopped sacrificing his own time to maintain a false sense of peace. And that moment taught him something important. Peace without boundaries isn't peace at all. It's just quiet frustration waiting to explode. 6. They believe effort will fix everything. One of the most admirable qualities of good people is their belief in effort. They believe that if something matters, it's worth fighting for. They believe that dedication, patience, and hard work can solve almost any problem. This mindset helps them succeed in many areas of life. In school, effort leads to improvement. In careers, effort leads to progress. In personal goals, effort creates growth. So naturally, they apply the same logic to relationships. When something starts going wrong with someone they care about, they don't immediately walk away. Instead, they double their effort. They communicate more. They try harder to understand the other person. They become more patient, more forgiving, and more supportive. Their internal belief is simple: if I care enough and work hard enough, we can fix this. And at first, this belief seems noble. Relationships do require effort. No connection is perfect, and sometimes people must work through challenges together. But here's the harsh reality that many good people eventually discover. Effort only works when both people are trying. When one person is carrying the entire weight of a relationship, Their effort doesn't repair the situation. Instead, it slowly drains them. Yet good people often struggle to see this imbalance clearly. Whenever problems appear, their instinct is to look inward rather than outward. Instead of asking, "Is the other person trying?" they ask themselves, "What can I do better?" If communication breaks down, they try harder to communicate. If the other person becomes distant, they try harder to reconnect. If trust is damaged, they try harder to rebuild it. They treat every problem like a puzzle that can be solved with enough persistence. But some problems are not puzzles. Some problems exist because the other person simply isn't invested in fixing them. This is where the cycle becomes painful. The more effort the good person gives, the more the other person may begin to take it for granted. Why? Because when someone is constantly fixing every problem, the other person never feels the pressure to change their behavior. The good person becomes the emotional repair system for the entire relationship. Arguments happen. They initiate the conversation to resolve it. Distance appears. They reach out to reconnect. Mistakes happen. They forgive and rebuild. Over time, they unknowingly create a dynamic where they are responsible for keeping everything together. And because they believe effort can fix anything, they keep trying longer than most people would, even when they feel exhausted, even when they feel unappreciated, even when the other person shows very little willingness to meet them halfway. Their mind keeps whispering the same thought. Maybe if I try just a little harder, but effort cannot create respect where respect doesn't exist. Effort cannot force someone to value you. Effort cannot repair a relationship where only one person cares about saving it. This realization is often one of the most painful lessons good people learn in life, because they genuinely believed that love, patience, and commitment could overcome any obstacle, and sometimes those things do work when both people are invested in the outcome. But when effort becomes one-sided, it stops being love and starts becoming sacrifice. Instead of building a stronger relationship, the good person begins slowly losing themselves. Their emotional energy gets depleted. Their self-worth begins to suffer. They start questioning why nothing they do seems to make things better. The truth is that the relationship didn't fail because they didn't try hard enough. It failed because effort was never mutual. Healthy relationships don't require one person to constantly hold everything together. They grow because both people are equally committed to protecting what they have. The moment good people realize this truth, something powerful changes in how they approach relationships. They still value effort. They still believe in working through problems. But they also start paying attention to something equally important: reciprocation. If they are the only one trying, they begin to recognize that something is wrong. They stop assuming that more effort will magically fix the situation. Instead, they start asking a much healthier question: is the other person trying as much as I am? Because real relationships don't survive on effort alone. They survive on shared effort. Example: consider a woman named Rachel, who has been in a relationship with someone named David for 2 years. At the beginning, everything felt balanced. They both made time for each other, communicated openly, and supported each other's goals. But over time, David slowly became distant. He stopped planning dates. He took longer to respond to messages. He seemed less emotionally present. Rachel noticed the shift immediately. Instead of assuming something was wrong with the relationship, she assumed she needed to try harder. She planned more activities together. She initiated deeper conversations. She tried to be more understanding and patient. Whenever she asked David what was wrong, he would say he was just busy or stressed. So Rachel kept trying. Months passed, and the pattern continued. Rachel was putting more and more effort into keeping the relationship alive, while David seemed increasingly disengaged. Eventually, Rachel started feeling emotionally exhausted. One day, during a conversation with a friend, she explained everything she had been doing to improve the relationship. Her friend listened carefully and then asked a simple question: what effort is he making? Rachel paused. For the first time, she realized something uncomfortable. She had been working tirelessly to fix a relationship that only one person was trying to save. David wasn't fighting for the relationship the way she was. That realization changed everything. Rachel eventually had an honest conversation with David about the imbalance. When nothing changed afterward, she made the difficult decision to walk away. It wasn't because she didn't care anymore. It was because she finally understood an important truth. Effort is powerful, but it cannot carry a relationship alone. Real love doesn't require one person to constantly prove their commitment. It shows up naturally from both sides, and when that balance exists, effort stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling like teamwork. 7. They don't recognize manipulation quickly. One of the hardest realities for genuinely good people to accept is that not everyone is sincere. Some people are honest, loyal, and transparent, but others are skilled at hiding their true intentions behind charm, kindness, and convincing words. Good people usually struggle to recognize manipulation quickly because manipulation requires a mindset they don't naturally have. They don't think about deceiving others. They don't calculate how to emotionally control someone. They don't plan strategies to get what they want from people. Because these thoughts don't exist in their own behavior, it's difficult for them to imagine someone else operating that way. So when they meet someone who is manipulative, they often interpret that person's actions through the lens of their own honesty. They assume sincerity. If someone compliments them constantly, they think the person genuinely admires them. If someone shares emotional stories, they believe those stories are real and heartfelt. If someone promises loyalty or commitment, they assume those promises mean something. Manipulative people understand this very well. In fact, many manipulators are experts at appearing exactly like the kind of person a good-hearted individual would trust. They often start with charm. They may shower someone with attention, kindness, and emotional connection. They say things that make the other person feel valued and understood. This stage can feel magical. The good person thinks they've found someone special, someone who finally understands them deeply, but this initial charm is often strategic. Manipulators know that once someone feels emotionally connected, they become easier to influence, so they slowly begin testing boundaries. Maybe they exaggerate small stories to gain sympathy. Maybe they subtly twist facts during disagreements. Maybe they guilt someone into doing favors or forgiving behavior that shouldn't be forgiven. At first, these actions are small enough that the good person barely notices, and even when something feels slightly off, they tend to give the benefit of the doubt. They think, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe they didn't mean it that way. Maybe I'm overthinking things. This generosity of interpretation is one of the most beautiful traits of kind people. But unfortunately, manipulators rely on exactly that. Every time their behavior is excused, they gain confidence that they can push a little further. Manipulation often grows slowly. It rarely begins with obvious cruelty. Instead, it builds through subtle patterns: gaslighting, making someone question their own perception; guilt-tripping, making someone feel responsible for another person's emotions; playing the victim, shifting blame away from themselves. Because these tactics are gradual, good people often realize what's happening only after they are already emotionally invested. And once emotions are involved, things become much harder to untangle. The good person doesn't want to believe someone they care about is manipulating them, so they continue trying to understand, communicate, and repair the relationship. Meanwhile, the manipulator may continue shaping the situation to their advantage. This creates a confusing emotional experience. The good person begins feeling drained, anxious, or uncertain, but they can't quite explain why. They start questioning themselves. Am I being unfair? Am I expecting too much? Maybe I'm the problem. This self-doubt is one of the most damaging effects of manipulation. Instead of trusting their instincts, they begin doubting their own judgment, and manipulators often reinforce that doubt by subtly shifting blame back onto the good person. The good person ends up working harder and harder to fix things, while the manipulator continues controlling the narrative. Eventually, however, patterns start becoming impossible to ignore. The same problems repeat. Promises are broken repeatedly. The manipulator's words stop matching their actions. At this point, the good person finally begins to see what has been happening. And when that realization arrives, it can be incredibly painful, not only because of the betrayal itself, but because they feel embarrassed for not recognizing it sooner. They may ask themselves, "How did I fall for this?" But the truth is simple. They didn't fall for it because they were foolish. They fell for it because they are someone who naturally believes in honesty and goodness. Manipulation thrives on trust. People who trust deeply are sometimes more vulnerable to it, not because they are weak, but because they assume others share their values. The real growth happens when good people learn to combine their kindness with awareness. They begin paying closer attention to patterns instead of just words. They start noticing when actions consistently contradict promises, and most importantly, they learn to trust their instincts when something feels wrong. Kindness does not require blindness. A good heart can still be observant, and once someone learns to recognize manipulation earlier, they protect themselves without losing the beautiful qualities that make them who they are. Example: consider a man named Leo who becomes friends with someone named Tyler. Tyler is charismatic and quickly forms a close bond with Leo. He compliments Leo often, praises his loyalty, and tells him how rare it is to find someone so genuine. Leo appreciates the friendship and trusts Tyler completely. After some time, Tyler begins asking Leo for favors, borrowing money, asking for help with projects, and requesting emotional support during stressful situations. Leo happily helps because that's what friends do. But something slowly begins to feel strange. Whenever Leo asks Tyler for help, Tyler suddenly becomes busy. Whenever Leo brings up something that bothers him, Tyler flips the conversation and makes Leo feel guilty. Tyler might say things like, "After everything I've been going through, I can't believe you'd bring this up right now." Or, "You're the only person I trust, and now you're doubting me?" Each time this happens, Leo ends up apologizing, even though he wasn't the one who did anything wrong. For months, Leo feels confused about why the friendship is starting to feel so draining. Eventually, another friend points out a pattern. Tyler always seems to get what he wants, while Leo keeps sacrificing his own time and energy. When Leo finally steps back and observes the situation clearly, he realizes something painful. Tyler wasn't just a struggling friend. He had been manipulating Leo's kindness and loyalty the entire time. Recognizing this truth was difficult, but it also taught Leo something valuable. Being a good person doesn't mean trusting everyone blindly. It means learning to recognize who truly deserves that trust. And once Leo became more aware of manipulation, he was able to protect his kindness instead of letting it be used against him. 8. They believe people will change. Hope is one of the most beautiful traits a good person can have. It allows people to see possibilities where others see dead ends. It gives them the strength to stay patient, to forgive mistakes, and to believe that people can become better versions of themselves. But sometimes, that same hope becomes the reason they stay in painful situations far longer than they should. Good people tend to believe deeply in human potential. They don't just look at who someone is today, they look at who that person could become. They see the good qualities hidden beneath bad habits, poor choices, or emotional immaturity, and because they see that potential, they hold on. When someone hurts them, they don't immediately assume that the person is simply careless or toxic. Instead, they think about the possibility of growth. They tell themselves things like, "They didn't mean to hurt me. They're just going through a difficult time." People change when they realize what they've done. Their belief in change keeps them patient. It keeps them forgiving. It keeps them waiting. But here's the painful truth that many good people eventually learn. Believing someone can change is not the same as that person actually changing. Change is possible for anyone, but it requires something very specific. It requires awareness, responsibility, and consistent effort from the person who needs to change. Without those three things, change rarely happens. Unfortunately, good people sometimes confuse potential with reality. They hold on to the version of someone they hope will appear someday. Instead of evaluating the person's current behavior, they focus on the few moments when the person showed kindness, honesty, or effort. Those small glimpses become proof in their mind that the better version of that person is still there, so they wait for it, and they keep waiting. Meanwhile, the patterns that hurt them continue. Promises are made but not kept. Apologies are given but the same mistakes repeat. The person who needs to change keeps saying the right words, but never truly transforms their actions. Good people often stay because they believe their patience will eventually inspire that transformation. They think their loyalty, understanding, and love will encourage the other person to grow. But growth cannot be forced from the outside. No amount of love can push someone to change if they are comfortable staying the same. And sometimes, the person who needs to change has no real motivation to do so, especially if the good person keeps forgiving everything. This creates a difficult cycle. The person hurts them. They apologize. The good person believes things will improve. The pattern repeats. Each apology resets the hope. Each promise of change gives the good person another reason to stay. Over time, the good person begins investing more and more emotional energy into a future that never arrives. They start imagining the relationship after the other person finally changes. They picture the peace that will come once the bad habits disappear. They believe all the pain they endured will eventually make sense because it led to growth. But sometimes that future never comes. The person never truly changes. And when the good person finally realizes this, the heartbreak can feel even deeper than the original betrayal. Because they weren't just attached to the person, they were attached to the possibility of who that person might become. Letting go of that possibility can feel like losing something that never fully existed. However, this realization also brings an important lesson. Believing in growth is not wrong. People can change, but real change is visible through consistent behavior, not just hopeful promises. Someone who is truly changing will show it through actions. They take responsibility without excuses. They actively work on their flaws. They demonstrate effort over time. Good people eventually learn that their job is not to wait for someone to become better. Their job is to decide whether the person they are with right now is capable of giving them the respect and care they deserve. Hope should never require someone to tolerate endless pain. And believing in people should never mean abandoning your own well-being. Once good people understand this, they stop falling in love with potential and start paying attention to patterns. Because patterns reveal who someone truly is, not just who they claim they will become someday. Example, imagine a woman named Nina who has been in a relationship with someone named Eric for several years. When Nina first met Eric, he was charming, ambitious, and full of dreams. He talked about building a stable future and becoming the best version of himself. But over time, Nina noticed a problem. Eric had a habit of making promises he didn't follow through on. He promised to manage his finances better, but continued making irresponsible decisions. He promised to work on his temper, but still lashed out during stressful moments. Each time Nina confronted him about these issues, Eric apologized sincerely. He would say things like, "I know I messed up, but I'm going to change. Just give me a little more time. I'm trying to become better." And Nina believed him. She believed in the potential she saw in him. She remembered the man he seemed capable of becoming, so she stayed patient. Years passed. Some things improved slightly, but the core patterns remained the same. One evening, after another broken promise, Nina had a quiet realization. She had spent years waiting for Eric to become the person he talked about being, but she had rarely asked herself an important question: is he actually changing, or am I just hoping he will? That question shifted everything. Nina realized she had been loving the idea of Eric more than the reality of his behavior. The man she imagined he could become existed mostly in the future she kept hoping for. Eventually, Nina made the difficult decision to move on. Not because she stopped believing people can change, but because she understood something important. Change must come from the person who needs it, not from the person waiting for it. And once she stopped waiting for someone else's transformation, she finally gave herself the chance to find the kind of relationship where growth was mutual instead of one-sided hope. 9. They give without expecting anything back. One of the most admirable qualities of good people is their generosity. They give their time, their energy, their support, and sometimes even their resources, without constantly keeping score. For them, kindness isn't a transaction. It's simply part of who they are. They help because someone needs help. They listen because someone needs to be heard. They support others because they genuinely care. They don't sit there calculating what they will receive in return. In fact, many good people feel uncomfortable asking for anything back at all. They believe that true kindness should be unconditional, and in many ways that belief is beautiful. But unfortunately, it can also create a situation where they become the person who is always giving and rarely receiving. Good people often develop a reputation among those around them. They're reliable, generous, and always willing to step in when someone needs something. At first, people admire this, but over time, something subtle begins to happen. Some individuals start seeing their kindness not as a gift, but as a resource. Instead of appreciating the generosity, they begin expecting it. Suddenly, the good person becomes the one everyone calls when they need help moving, advice during a crisis, emotional support after a bad day, or someone to solve their problems. The good person shows up again and again. They listen patiently. They offer solutions. They sacrifice their own time to make someone else's life easier, and they rarely complain about it. Why? Because they believe kindness shouldn't come with conditions. They tell themselves things like, "I don't help people just to get something back. If someone needs me, I want to be there." That's what good people do. And while this mindset comes from a genuinely kind place, it can slowly create an imbalanced dynamic. Because some people don't just accept generosity, they grow dependent on it. They begin expecting the good person to always show up. And if the good person ever hesitates or says no, those same people may react with disappointment or even guilt. That's when the good person starts feeling something strange. They begin feeling drained. They begin noticing that when they need support, many of the same people they've helped are suddenly unavailable. When they are struggling, the phone is quiet. When they need encouragement, the room feels empty. And that realization can be painful, not because they regret helping others, but because they begin to see a pattern. Their generosity has not always been matched with the same level of care. Good people often struggle with this realization because they never wanted their kindness to be conditional. But there is a difference between being generous and being taken for granted. Healthy generosity exists in relationships where both people naturally support each other. It doesn't have to be perfectly equal every single time, but there is a general sense of balance. Both people care, both people give, both people show up when it matters. But when one person is always giving while the other is always receiving, the relationship slowly becomes one-sided, and the person who gives the most often ends up carrying the emotional weight of everyone around them. The hardest part is that good people rarely recognize this imbalance early, because their natural instinct is to focus on helping others, not evaluating whether their kindness is being respected. They often only realize the problem when exhaustion sets in, when they finally reach a moment where they feel overwhelmed, underappreciated, or invisible. That moment forces them to ask an important question: why am I always the one giving? And the answer is often simple, but difficult to accept. Some people never intended to give back the same way. They simply became comfortable receiving. This doesn't mean good people should stop being generous. Generosity is one of the qualities that makes the world better. But generosity should never come at the cost of someone's emotional health. Good people eventually learn an important truth. You can give without expecting a reward, but you should still pay attention to whether the people around you value your kindness or simply rely on it. Because the right people in your life won't just take from your generosity, they will naturally want to give back, not out of obligation, but because they care about you just as much as you care about them. And when that balance exists, generosity stops feeling exhausting. It starts feeling like mutual support instead of constant sacrifice. Example, imagine a man named Carlos who is known among his friends as the person everyone can count on. If someone needs advice, Carlos listens for hours. If someone needs help moving apartments, Carlos shows up with his truck. If someone is going through a difficult breakup, Carlos is the one who stays up late talking them through it. Over the years, he becomes the emotional backbone of his entire friend group. Everyone appreciates him. They often say things like, "Carlos is such a good friend," but something slowly starts bothering him. Whenever Carlos is dealing with his own struggles, stress at work, personal problems, or difficult moments in life, very few of those same friends seem available. Some say they're too busy. Others promise to call back but forget. One night, after helping a friend through yet another personal crisis, Carlos sits alone and realizes something uncomfortable. He has spent years supporting everyone else, but very few people have shown up for him the same way. That realization doesn't make him angry. It makes him thoughtful. Carlos eventually begins setting small boundaries. He still helps people, but not at the expense of his own well-being. He also starts paying attention to which friendships feel balanced and which ones feel one-sided. Over time, something interesting happens. Some friendships grow stronger because the people truly care about Carlos and start supporting him more. Other relationships fade because those people were mainly used to receiving, not giving. And Carlos learns an important lesson. Kindness should never require someone to empty themselves completely. The right people will never let your generosity become your burden. Instead, they will make sure that the support you give also finds its way back to you. 10. Their kindness is rare. One of the deepest reasons good people get hurt the most is also one of the most overlooked. Their kindness is rare, not common kindness, not polite behavior, not surface-level friendliness, but real kindness. The kind that shows up when it's inconvenient, the kind that stays when others leave, the kind that forgives without keeping a scoreboard, the kind that listens without interrupting, the kind that cares without expecting applause. True kindness is powerful, but it is not common. In many environments, people are focused on survival, competition, self-interest, or personal gain. That doesn't make everyone bad, but it does mean that genuine, heart-driven goodness stands out. And when something stands out, it gets noticed. Sometimes it gets appreciated, but sometimes it gets targeted. Good people don't try to be rare. They simply are. They don't fake concern. They don't manipulate emotions. They don't pretend to care just to get something in return. Their kindness is authentic, and because it is authentic, it is also valuable. The problem is that in a world where many interactions are transactional, genuine kindness can be misunderstood. Some people may not know how to handle it, others may not know how to return it, and a few may even try to take advantage of it. When someone consistently treats others with respect, patience, and empathy, they naturally create a safe space around them. People feel comfortable opening up. They feel heard. They feel supported. But that same safe space can sometimes become an emotional dumping ground, because rare kindness often attracts people who are hurting, struggling, or even emotionally immature. Good people become magnets for problems, not because they seek them, but because others sense their stability. They become the listener, the helper, the supporter, the peacemaker. Over time, they may realize something uncomfortable. They are giving more emotional energy than they are receiving. And because their kindness is rare, They assume others must value it the same way they do. But not everyone recognizes rarity. Some people only recognize convenience. When someone is always kind, some individuals may begin to expect it. They may forget that kindness is not a requirement. It is a choice. And when kindness is treated as an obligation, the good person slowly begins to feel unseen. They may feel unappreciated, not because they need constant praise, but because they rarely receive the same depth of care they offer others. This can create emotional fatigue. Good people often continue giving even when exhausted, because kindness feels like their identity. They don't want to become cold. They don't want to change who they are. They don't want to lose their softness. But here is the important truth. Being rare does not mean being invisible. Their kindness may not always be celebrated by everyone, but it is deeply valued by the right people. The rarity of their character is actually their strength. It means they stand out in integrity. It means they are not easily replaced. It means their presence has real impact. However, rarity also means they must protect themselves wisely. When something is rare, it should not be wasted on those who do not respect it. Good people eventually learn that kindness works best when it is combined with discernment. Not everyone deserves the same level of access to their heart. Not everyone deserves unlimited energy. Kindness should be given freely, but not blindly, because rare qualities should be guarded with wisdom. When good people start understanding the value of their rarity, something shifts. They stop overextending themselves for people who only take. They begin investing their kindness where it is reciprocated. They learn that it's okay to be generous, but also okay to have boundaries. And when they do this, something interesting happens. The people who truly appreciate them step closer. The relationships that matter become stronger, and the ones that relied on unlimited access begin to fade. That's not cruelty, that's alignment. Rare kindness doesn't disappear when it is protected. It becomes stronger. It becomes more focused. It becomes healthier. The world needs genuine kindness. But kindness must be balanced with self-respect. Otherwise, the very trait that makes someone special can slowly become the reason they feel drained. When good people realize their kindness is rare, they stop apologizing for it. They stop shrinking it. They stop giving it away carelessly. Instead, they begin to treat it like what it truly is: a strength, a gift, a powerful quality that deserves to be valued, not exploited. And once they understand that, their kindness stops hurting them. It starts working for them. Example: imagine a woman named Sophia who works in a busy corporate environment. Sophia is known in her office for being incredibly supportive. She helps new employees adjust. She listens when co-workers are stressed. She volunteers for extra tasks when deadlines are tight. She always tries to maintain harmony in the team. Her kindness becomes part of her reputation. Over time, some colleagues begin relying on her heavily. Whenever there is conflict, they ask Sophia to mediate. Whenever someone needs help finishing a project, they turn to her. Whenever someone feels overwhelmed, they expect Sophia to step in. She does so willingly, because that's who she is. But one day Sophia experiences a personal challenge outside of work. She needs understanding and support. She mentions her situation to a few co-workers, expecting at least some emotional encouragement. To her surprise, the response is minimal. People are polite, but distant. Some seem too busy. Others quickly shift the conversation back to work. Sophia begins to realize something painful. She has been consistently offering rare, genuine kindness, but not everyone around her knows how to reciprocate that depth of care. This realization doesn't change her heart, but it changes her boundaries. Sophia continues being kind, but she stops overextending herself. She learns to say no when necessary. She invests more energy in the relationships where kindness is mutual. And something shifts. The people who truly value her begin to show it more clearly. They offer support. They express appreciation. They return effort. Sophia doesn't become less kind. She becomes wiser, about where her kindness goes. And that makes all the difference, because when rare kindness is respected, it doesn't fade, it flourishes. Being a good person in a world that often rewards selfishness can feel exhausting. You give your time, your loyalty, your understanding, only to discover that not everyone values those things the way you do. But the lesson isn't that you should stop being good. The real lesson is that goodness must be paired with wisdom. Kindness without boundaries becomes self-sacrifice. Compassion without awareness becomes vulnerability. The strongest good people eventually learn a powerful truth. You can stay kind without staying naive. You can care about others without abandoning yourself. And when you learn to protect your peace, your goodness stops being something people exploit and starts becoming something they respect.